and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Amended known as the Texas Open Meetings Act. Any members of the public who wish to speak shall each have 5 minutes. Mr. Morgan.
Morning, Mr. Grant, Commissioners. I have a brochure that I made up some time ago about the vibroacoustic disease that's haunting us here in Freestone County. And this morning I've taken some noise readings with my $3,000 noise meter. It's not as bad as it used to be or had been in past weeks here in Fairfield. I take a noise reading, particularly the old hospital site, kind of away from the traffic, and I make sure there's hardly any traffic moving when I take the noise readings. And today it was 60 decibels of low frequency noise. It should not be greater than 30. Now, on average in Fairfield, and I take the noise readings on all sides of town, it's normally 70 decibels, just on the average of those places. That's not good. And we don't know how much damage it's doing, and our doctors don't have a clue about the fibroacoustic disease. And I made up this, you can even look at this, is the only one I have left. We'll take that. I'm going to update that and make several thousand copies for this county. That's a major problem we have still with this low frequency noise. And in my house this morning, it was 85 decibels of low frequency noise. That really can hurt you. And I have to wear all my protective gear and leave my home. Now, who can I call? Can I call the county sheriff and say, hey, can you call these guys, perpetrators, and get them to lower their noise? I don't think he's going to do that. So we're just out of luck. I call them. Sometimes they lower it, sometimes they don't. But it's a hell of a way to live in this county. And I've been living here since 1987 when I had my home built here. It's still, we're having these atrocities against our citizens. And I will be going to Austin to talk to the folks there, see if we can get the item that our county attorney sent in, see if I can get it on their agenda. They're really pushing for that.
Well, we'll be anxious to hear their response. Anyone else? I see Mr. David Fowler is here. Do you have an update for us, or?
Well, sure, I can give you that.
All right.
The TA Travel Plaza is coming along out there on I-45. Yesterday out at the industrial park, Blackledge Emulsions, Long Industries delivered the tanks for Blackledge Emulsions, and they were all set yesterday, and today they're out there working on the catwalks and the ladders, so that project's moving along real well. And it looks like we're going to get our grant for the reconstruction of the Old Mahale Road, 6/10 of a mile, about $950,000 for that. So that looks to be going well.
And that's through Hot Cod, isn't it?
Through the EDA, Economic Development Assistance. Yes, ma'am. Working through Miss Dorothy Jackson at Hot Cod.
Yes.
So everything's going pretty well. Just needs more workers around here. But that's the story everybody's talking about right now. So anyway.
Isn't that something? Before we needed jobs, and now we need workers.
We're working on a housing initiative with the City of Fairfield, working on some incentives to help kind of promote some housing. We need some houses built. We did have someone buy the development behind Wells Fargo the other day. They plan on building 7 new houses in there. So anyway, that's what we're working on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. If not, then we'll go to item number 1, which is the minutes of the April 21st meeting.
Second.
All in favor, aye. Motion carried. All right. Item number 2 is budget transfers and amendments.
On that, replenishing the indigent healthcare, is that the same as page 31 in the bills where that fund got to 0.5%?
Indigent healthcare, and which one is the
Be that was first y'all line.
first yellow line? No. On the budget transfers, that is medical for inmates. And we classify the ones that we can for indigent health care, the inmates, and that's line, that's 632, 654.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
page
it
31.
is, yes, that is, that's not our regular indigent line item. It's 654 also, yes.
Okay.
So we're putting
We've
it,
had a lot of medicals this
That's
year.
what I mean, it just sounds like that we,
Yeah. And, you know, we're only halfway through the year, so rather than doing $1,000 each time, or, you know, as we go along, we just move enough, hopefully to last us throughout the year, the remainder of the year. That is the same line item. We do have an inmate medical indigent, and then we have a regular indigent that Jeannie administers to people that are not in a hospital district within a county that qualifies indigent, for indigent help on their medical.
The second one, $1,500 for capital litigation, murder trial.
Yes.
When's that trial on?
Brian is going to be here in a few minutes and give us an update. Any other discussion on the budget amendments?
Make a motion to approve both of them.
I'll second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item number 3 is to approve and pay the bills. Let me go over the bills. I'm going to run over and remind Ryan. Whoops, look at that.
Sorry, Judge, just taking a phone call.
No problem.
Are you at Bill's?
We are at bills.
Okay, yeah, appreciate it.
Yes, so we'll let you talk about,
Morning, everybody. How are y'all doing?
good.
Good. So an update on our DeBrett Black case. Obviously with Corona, like everything else, we've been kind of at a standstill for the past year. The good thing right now with court cases in general, county court, district court, and DeBrett Black, is that we're getting back in person. We actually had a hearing this past week. There's a lot of moving parts right now, but things are happening fairly quickly right now and over the next few months. What you're looking at this point in time is there's two kind of competing doctors, and not to really, something that is this complicated to sum it up in one sentence is probably unfair, but two different doctors saying two different things about his competency or incompetency, right? That's why you're seeing a lot of doctors' bills come through, is that's the issue.
And we just did a budget amendment, and that question came up.
Absolutely.
And just for people that don't recognize the name, that is the capital murder case.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
We have
ma'am.
people that are listening that may not.
Yes, Damon Allen, the victim in that case. And so that's why you're seeing doctor's bills. It's an expert case. It's a doctor case. If it were to go to an incompetency trial, which could potentially happen here very soon, you'd be dealing with those doctors coming in and testifying. So from a commissioner standpoint, from a bill standpoint, you should expect some more bills dealing with their time, coming in and testifying on both sides. I believe our insurance policy provides payment for the defense attorneys, but it's not providing any payment for defense experts.
Correct.
So again, we're paying, again, from a county standpoint, from a commissioner standpoint, you're paying both sides of that from a cost standpoint.
And what he's talking about is, we are a part of the Lubbock group still that provides defense. You want to talk about that a minute?
Yeah, so there was a capital murder case here, late 2008, 2009, 2010, something like that. I think, not to put words in everybody's mouth, but we realized what the cost of a capital murder case would be, right? And that's for any county, anywhere, the cost is very high, just for manpower wise and providing the things that you need to provide. From that point on, the county entered into an insurance policy. It's the Regional Public Defender's Office. It's through Lubbock, and what it does in a nutshell is it pays the cost for the defense attorneys specifically, but doesn't pay for any cost associated with the defense in general.
Right.
So experts and travel, I mean, we're talking about, it's been moved to Brazos County. Any of the travel expenses, I'm assuming, would come from the county. I don't know. I think we talked about offsets.
There will be some that we can apply for.
Absolutely, and so there are some offsets, I think, from the county's purpose that you can offset some of that. Right now, dealing with competency, incompetency, that's the next step. I think you're looking at, since things have opened up, that happening in the next few months, and that's really going to tell us where this is going.
I'm kind of confused about all this.
Okay.
We're checking a man for competency, you know, he murdered a DPS officer. It's like any of these guys out here wearing them suits. I mean, what's a murder trial gonna take no more? Just for murder. Not if he's right or wrong in his mind.
Right, I think that it's a very good point. I'll make sure I choose my words correctly to say it out here, is that to go for a certain punishment, you have to be competent for the government to punish you in a certain way. That's above my pay grade. And, you know, we should have had our representative here and we can talk to him about why the laws are set up that way, right? And so that's the way that it is to seek a certain punishment. You have to be competent to be tried anyway. And the problem with competency, so to get in the weeds of this, insanity is at the time. You either are insane at the time you commit the crime, or you're not. But competency can come up anytime.
Let me say, generally it's the defense attorney that will press that.
Absolutely.
Generally?
Yeah, I mean, we've had defendants mutually in county court that it's very clear that they lack the mental capacity to understand what is going on, both in county court and in felony court. We deal with those people.
And generally, I don't know about felonies, but in county court, if we realize that there's an issue, even if they've not requested it, we appoint an attorney just to be, because that is, to get to a resolution, you have to know that they are competent also.
I'll put it this way, Commissioner Owens.
Or I have to know before I'm going to accept a plea.
Right, and understand the frustration, believe me, I definitely understand that. And right or wrong, or how everybody feels, right now there's a doctor saying that he is incompetent.
So is there two different trials, Brian? One will decide on whether he's competent or not, and
So-
then if he is, we'll have another trial?
So broadly speaking, why don't you talk about Dr. Brett Blunt? Let's kind of just talk about
Just
that.
in general.
Just in general.
Yeah, okay.
Let's say I'm on trial and a doctor finds me incompetent and another doctor says I'm competent. We would have a trial for a jury or a judge to find whether Brian Evans is competent or incompetent. If I'm incompetent, I go to Vernon or Austin State Hospital. They try to get me to regain my competency. Now, as you can imagine, what a lot of that is whether you take medication or you don't. We deal with quite a few people that have episodes. I'm not saying this one at all, I'm speaking broadly, that if they're not taking their medication, they may not be competent. If they take their medication, they are, okay? So you go to Vernon, you go to Austin State Hospital. From there, they're able to forcefully medicate the person. At that point in time, those experts decide whether that person's competent or incompetent. If they stay incompetent, we have ways where they stay locked up in basically the Health and Human Services division for the rest of their lives, essentially. And we have people that is pre-me. In fact, we dealt with one last week that is I think it was an attempted rape from 20 years ago, and he's still locked away in Austin State Hospital, right? Because he's incompetent, and every year we have to come back to extend his commitment, just paperwork to keep him going. Let's say that they go to Austin State Hospital and they regain competency. They force medicate them, they're competent now, they come back and you can have a trial. If they're found competent, then you can move forward with prosecuting whichever way that you feel like is appropriate, right? They're able to be prosecuted. The problem, going back to the question before, is competency can come up at any time. So the logistical problem is you could be competent today. Theoretically, you can be competent today and incompetent tomorrow. So if you're found competent at a trial, a couple months down the road doesn't mean that argument can't be brought up again to be decided at that point in time. And that's just broadly speaking. You have to be competent to stand trial. And so
we don't know about our timeline yet, but we
the
are
first,
moving forward.
Absolutely, I think again, not to without Corona, we were set to go to trial this past January. Okay, that was the plan leading into Corona delay. Well, nope.
Not this January, but the January before.
We were set to go. We would be done with trial right now. We were set for January 2021. February of 2020. Obviously, we've dealt with delays just like anything else, and here we are.
Okay.
And that was then for the death penalty, I'm sure.
That had been for the trial, that had been for the entire trial.
I mean, but for him to receive the death penalty.
That, if we go to trial, that will be the issue.
This individual was in trouble, I think from what I read, was in trouble prior to this incident.
I don't think that's probably something you can discuss at this time.
No, I don't.
I'm talking about competency.
Oh,
So I'm assuming he was competent then?
Correct.
Thank you, that's fine.
The assumption would be, if you've been prosecuted and punished, that at that point in time you were competent. Now you can look at that two ways, whether the defense attorney thought to bring that up and just kind of got it done, or different things like that. But yes, if you have been prosecuted, you can assume at that point in time you were competent.
Bills.
all right. Anything else? If not, let's look at the bills. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
questions on the bills?
My telephone bill's too high.
Okay. What do you wanna do?
Investigate.
Investigate, that's a good thing, investigate.
Be like, too bad, one time.
It still is.
Investigate.
It went down, and we put some different lights in, so we'll see if that makes it go down. Telephone bill, $147
Whoa,
every month.
that's the lady you called. Okay. Any other discussion on the bills?
Make a motion to pay the bill. Except for non-bill,
Is that just at your barn, Norman?
106.
How much is mine?
You got AT&T, and yours don't have as easy a breakdown as Indy's. Ours is Windstream.
You know, ours used to be up at JP's office. They'd ring twice for the answer.
We don't answer ours, we got an answer machine,
There you go.
1970.
We have a motion.
I'll second on black.
On proof. We got our deal straight. We get ours straight.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carried. Item number 4 is to approve the payroll.
I make a motion to approve the payroll.
I'll second.
All in favor, aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carried. Item number 5 is reports. I have a report from Constable Precinct 2. A little colorful little
Yeah.
a report from JP2 for March and one for April. Any other reports this morning? If not, do we have a motion to accept these reports?
I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor, aye. Motion carried.
And if you would, on the minutes, change that to just accept the reports.
That's your preference. Thank you.
All right.
What about the burn down? That's number 6.
Look it up.
No action.
No action. No action. Item number 7, special road use agreements. Do we have any? If not, we'll go to item number 8 to approve bonds and education certificates. I have one certificate for Daniel Ralston for educational training, property tax administration, one for property tax law, and one for truth and taxation. Are there any other bonds or education certificates? If not, do we have a motion to accept these?
Change that to accept.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I make a motion we accept that.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carried. Item number 9 is an environmental report by Jason McGee. All right, good morning.
Morning, everyone. So I started my reports in March. I did my field training here, began my duties as environmental. So far, March was by precinct. We have, in precinct 1, we removed it. The removals are going to be people removing their trash, not me. So I didn't call anybody to remove trash other than the suspects that dumped it there. So in precinct 1, we had 400 pounds of trash removed in March. Precinct 2, 200. Precinct 3, 15, and precinct 4, 85, for a total of 700 pounds in the county that was removed by people that dumped it there. I had 3 criminal cases filed during the month of March, 2 of which were search warrant related. And then animal control, I had 8 livestock calls and 3 vicious dog calls. In April, this is my working document that I go off of, and sometimes my call, I don't go by how many calls I had because the investigations might travel from month to month. I might still be working on something that I started last month. So totals for precinct 1 removed were 0, 2 were 450 pounds, 3 was a combination, 365 pounds, but also a cubic foot greater than 200. So when it's too large for me to be able to weigh it or even estimate the weight, then I go by cubic footage. The law, that's what the law goes by, so that's what I go by. Precinct 4, 220 pounds, and also greater than 200 cubic feet. So the poundage is additional to the cubic footage that I put on there. For a total of 1,035 pounds removed and greater than 400 cubic feet removed. Criminal cases filed with 4. I had 12 livestock calls, 1 vicious dog call, or 7 vicious dog calls, and 1 other that had to do with chickens. And then
You probably need to explain that a little more.
well, so in my duties when I patrol through, I also look. I mean, I'm a cop, so I look for everything. And what I noticed back there was a bunch of roosters in the backyard, and so I ended up getting enough probable cause to write a search warrant for the property to investigate cockfighting. I did find lots of evidence that led towards it, just not enough evidence to say, yes, it's there. So since then, they've completely disbanded everything that they're doing. So anyway, they had evidence of roosters that were injured. They had evidence, they cut their combs. I could go into it, how to tell if they're cockfighting, but they had all the evidence there except for the knives that they wear. And I couldn't quite get there. I did have one of the suspects actually admit to me that he sells those roosters to people that fight them, but because of the language barrier, I couldn't use it. So all I'd have to say is I didn't understand what I was being asked. Questions? I do have an update for you. I've got a lead on our dumper for the sewage, and it might take some covert operation work, but I'm gonna catch them. So like we should. We had an incident where they've dumped raw sewage on County Road 196, and since I've been here, I've heard rumors of this truck dumping sewage on our county roads. Well, I actually have an investigation going right now for a fresh one, and I have a pretty good lead. So we might actually have him in jail before the end of the week or in the next week.
And that's happened more than once on that road, so I really appreciate what you're doing. I guess my question is to you, do I need to call the sheriff's office, the dispatch, Or do we need to personally call you? I mean, I don't understand what we need to do.
Yes, sir. So, calling dispatch is the best way because they will document the call. And if I'm off, they actually print a call slip, put it in my box, and it sits there for me to get to when I get back. So it helps me to keep track of the record of the calls so that someone doesn't fall behind the cracks and it gets lost. So, but if there's an emergency like yesterday when it was fresh and these guys are running around, I mean, absolutely call me, you know. But if it's just somebody complaining to you, hey, this trash was on this road, I would call our dispatch.
When it's a landowner that calls us, should we tell them to call the sheriff's department instead of us calling on their behalf?
Yes, sir. Because what'll happen is I'll end up calling you to update you, and you really want me to update them. Because I try to follow up with every single person that calls in a complaint. I follow up with them to let them know where the progress is going, whether, hey, I'm not going to be able to solve this one for you, or it's removed. Either way, I try to give a disposition to every call.
Did any of them get a citation? They picked up their trash?
No, none of these have received citations. I've had one arrested because they didn't comply. So right now, because of, I call it the infancy, but it's the infancy with me doing it. Right now, our policy is if you clean up your trash, you're done. As long as you clean up your trash, you're done. And I give a timeline on that. If they don't clean up their trash, then I file on it. And I think it's really important to know that the majority of the cases you would think would be misdemeanors, but the majority of the cases that I'm working are felonies. They're large amounts of trash that are really affecting the county.
That's what I'm saying. I get stopped for a seatbelt law. If I have a seatbelt on, I'm gonna get a ticket. I can clean my trash up, I'll put my seatbelt on and take them on off, but I'm still going to pay that ticket.
Yes,
Some
sir.
people will be fined.
Yes, sir.
They ought to pay a citation.
I understand that.
And whenever they pick it up, or they take it somewhere and dispose of it in a proper way, then bring you back some identification, some kind of way to show that it was disposed of properly, like take it to a landfill or something, and then bring it back something to show you, or they just picking it up and taking it somewhere else?
So what I require from them is to shoot me a picture that it's cleaned up, and then a picture of it legally disposed. A lot of times I'll get pictures that's in their car or it's in their truck showing that they've picked it up, and then a dumpster, or the problem with the landfill is the landfill does not give receipts. So if that's something we can change in the future here, where we can require the landfill just give them a receipt, some sort of written receipt, that would be wonderful, because then I can require people to go take that to the landfill and provide me a copy of the receipt. Right now, it's just photographs, and then I go and I make sure, I follow up and go to the location, make sure it's gone.
I know our landfill that do will give you a receipt if you ask for one.
Okay. The one, there's,
You're supposed to give everybody a receipt that brings something down there.
the one, is it TIG? Near TIG, not TIG. Mahay. Yeah, I don't believe they give a receipt. I've had several people try to go there and they tell me that they won't give them a receipt. So that's why I started requiring the photographs showing me that it's legally disposed.
Thank you.
Thank you for
You
coming.
bet.
Thank you.
Item number 11 is to approve the resolution of the governing body for VCLG grant. Mr. Evans?
This is just to renew my victims coordinator for another 2 years, or allow me to apply for that grant to continue her service as a victims coordinator in my office. And so what this is a resolution basically giving me permission to apply for it, and I have to do that every 2 years to get that funding.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Judge, we skipping on 10.
Uh-oh,
Come on now.
we sure did. Let's see. I'll give this to you, and will you either keep a copy or whatever and give one to Brian?
Yes, I will.
All right. We will now go back to number 10, which is to consider accepting the interlocal agreement between McLennan County and Freestone County for housing and care of inmates. And this agreement,
And this is the one we do, in case Grosbeck can't handle our medical. It's more serious stuff than even Limestone County can handle. So if we have to use them, which we very
it's a
seldom do,
backup for,
yes, it's just somewhere else we can send them to get the
and
help they
they
need.
charge $84.12 a day.
Just they're a lot higher than Limestone County.
It sure is.
The Limestone County is not the lowest in the state.
Yeah, we'll talk a little more about them, so we can stay there.
Who's the lowest?
I would probably venture to say they are.
Limestone?
We've never found anybody cheaper.
Oh, I thought you said they wasn't the lowest in the state.
No, yeah, they are.
Yeah.
And and that's just a neighborly thing they do for us, because it's not like that for everybody.
We were very appreciative of
Yeah.
being able to continue at that rate.
And we've been doing this for Second Avenue, we've been doing it.
We've done this
The
before.
McLennan County one? Yes,
For a long time.
yes, I think I've done it just about every single time,
Yeah.
just to make sure we've got somewhere else to take,
Yeah.
because they have,
Or if it's a certain type of thing, I think we
Yes.
might have used them once
yes,
on a mental issue or something.
yes, mentals, medicals,
But
just
generally
the
it's
seriousness of it,
But, yeah,
because they are more apt to be able to handle that type of stuff.
Well, we ain't gonna use them unless we need them.
No, right,
I'm like,
we never have, yeah.
This is a 1-year extension, is that right?
If I'm not mistaken, I don't think we used them at all last year, but we had them available in case we did, because, at one point Limestone got down to 2 beds, so we didn't have, and I'd already checked everywhere else.
right.
We had people in like 3 different places at that time, so, but we ended up not having to use them.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
uh,
Any opposed? None, motion carried. All right. Now, will you get this to them, or are you gonna give it to Jeremy for him to send over to them? You want a certified copy, or a copy after she stamped it?
Yes, and I'll
Or
have
you
to
want her
sign,
to send it?
and I'll have to sign it too.
Okay.
I'll do it directly after the meeting.
All right. Item number 12 is the 2021 TAC RMP Safety Equipment Program for Road and Bridge members. They allow funds or allocate funds that can be used for certain safety equipment, and it's not a large amount. So in the past, I don't see an amount on here. In the past, the commissioners have agreed to let the sheriff have all of those funds. I can't remember what the last one was. Do you remember, Sheriff? But it wasn't a very large amount.
I want
Was
to
it
say it was around
300?
900 was their part, but then, because we get about 12 or 1400 too.
Yeah, it's a small amount, so if that's agreeable.
I will say that,
To approve the program, equipment program,
take that motion.
and for all of the funds to be allocated to the sheriff's
Right.
department.
That hasn't been done.
Is that part of your motion?
Second.
Second, any other discussion?
I will say that we do have, because they're not the jacks we thought they were when we ordered them, but we do have 2 2-ton jacks if one of the commissioners wants them, because we can't, obviously we ain't putting those big old things in the back of our truck and taking them out every
I'll take
time.
them both.
But I got,
I was just saying, you need some more of them jacks in precinct 3, Mark.
no, well, they're county property anyway,
Yeah.
but we have 2, and they're brand new, haven't been used, so if somebody needs them.
Well, we had some of them trailers come from somewhere where, hot dog, where are they at?
I got one.
I know where one at. Been looking for it.
I don't have any.
I do not
They
have
got
that.
2 though.
No, I don't have to.
No, he's got one, I got, there's
Y'all
one
can
over there.
discuss about the
One
jack.
can
Well,
only
Jerry's
yeah.
meeting. We have a-
Well, one's an environmental trailer
Yes.
that we need to make sure we know where it's at, but it says it on the pipe. deal that says environmental on
It
it.
did say it.
Oh, it did?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye? Any opposed? None. Motion carried.
I'll get the
Item
jack
number
check.
13 is the property coverage renewal for TAP for July the 1st of 2021 and June the 30th of 2022. You have in your packet the information. This is property renewal. And it did go up a little bit. I don't have the amount for last year. Did she have that amount for you? It did go up a little bit, but you know, during this past year, we had, some, auditors come from the risk management program, and they revalued a lot of our properties, so it's up a little bit.
Make a motion that we renew the property coverage for TAC.
Second.
All in favor, aye? Motion carried. Item number 14 is to award the bid for the 1968 Plymouth trailer for precinct 4.
That was a good year.
Was I supposed to sign that? I don't think so. Okay, Karen will get back to us. Karen will. Okay. All right. Do we have any bids?
We never got any bids.
No bids. All right. So we want to award them. And you can talk to her about how you can proceed on getting rid of that. See, there's a trailer for you right there. Okay. Consider an order authorizing Memorial Day fireworks sales.
It's all Andy. We always.
Yes, it is always, okay. And this order will expire on the date the Texas Fire Service determines drought conditions exist, or midnight of May 31st, whichever's earliest. We have a motion, do we have a second to allow the sale?
Did you make a motion, Andy?
Oh,
Yes, sir. I'll second it.
All in favor, aye?
Fans and airport bags.
Any opposed? None. Motion carried. Item number 16 is the investment policy. Jenny, you want to talk about that?
So just every year, we just have to bring our investment policy before the court just to, for y'all to accept the investment policy, each year.
Most of it is regulated by statute as to how we can comply, what we can invest in,
And nothing in the body changed this time, in our investment committee, which is made up of Judge Grant and Karen. I got them copies about a month ago just to look over. The only thing that changed is one account was added, so I had to add that account here in this body, but other than that, nothing's changed on the investment committee.
and if any of you would like to be on the investment committee, we would certainly accept new volunteers. If not, do we have a motion to accept, to approve the investment policy?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor, aye? Motion carried. You know, that also it says how those have to be secured, you know, the requirements for that, but, are there any comments from Commissioners Court members?
I have a comment.
All right.
I think that after the freeze and loss of electricity and everything, I think we kind of got complacent on not talking about getting some backup power. The forecast for hurricane season is supposed to be a little bit above last year, which was still a little bit above normal, more potential. So I just think it's something that we should discuss as to locations and.
I was hoping that in this American Relief Act that we might, you know, they say we're supposed to get all these funds, which I will, we'll see. But if we do, that would be one of our big proposals, is to get generators. If not, then I think we'll need to look probably at budget time about budgeting some money. We'll decide how many and how much and do it then.
The last I heard about the money is it shouldn't be too much longer till we'll be getting
The
it.
first half will be here in May, they say, this month.
So, but I think
Checks in the mail.
I think that's a very good idea after what we just saw
Yeah,
our
and
county went
I think
through.
we have a list of some other things too that we
Yeah, that's
probably would wanna buy. But, I mean, I'm concerned about how they're actually saying we can spend this money.
There'll be stipulations on it, you bet that.
Well, in those magazines that we've gotten, you know, they talk about it, and a lot of it, I mean, for, different kind of rail within our counties and different kind of stuff it's gonna be difficult. Be difficult. But anyway, yes, I
Commissioners,
Yeah.
didn't want us to forget.
no, and be thinking about some other things like that that we will, want to be talking about either at budget time or if this money comes, that's surely where we'll want to get all that stuff.
How we doing on,
I mean, we could talk about it now, but we're 6 months through and, I don't know, I mean, looks like we're gonna be a little short of money this year in the budget, so.
just how we doing on our election administrators? We got the 15th coming right up.
We do, and it has been, should be in this next week's paper. And then we'll be waiting for 2 weeks for applications. And we will then have a meeting of the committee to appoint one of those. Which should be in the next paper advertising.
Okay.
And Judge, just a reminder.
This week's paper, as a matter of fact.
That cybersecurity class is coming up, I think, due in June, so just a reminder that
Thank
if
you.
you haven't taken it,
Anybody
you will
that's
need to
not
get it done.
done their cybersecurity, which would be me.
Do you still have the website, we can get information from you and do it on our,
Yeah.
Or Beth.
Beth.
Okay, okay.
Maybe you ought to print something out and give it to them.
Yes, they do.
Beth, maybe you ought to print something out, or type something out, so you give a copy to whoever wants to get on their own computer to do it.
Well, the cybersecurity people send an email to them, that's the only way you can do it, is through
Oh, it
that.
is?
So if they get it on a work computer, then they'll need to send it to their personal.
Yeah.
Okay, but it sends it to their email,
Yes.
so you should get an invitation through your email.
Yeah, okay.
Chris, you should get an invitation through your email, and then you respond that way. Thank you, thank
Chris,
you.
what is your email address so I can send you something?
All right, any other discussion, any comments from Commissioner Court?
I make a motion we adjourn.
All in favor, aye. Thank you.